Good morning, everyone. My name is Barbara Chiarelli. I'm an architect, and now I'm a research fellow at the University of Trieste, working on site with the staff Lorenzo presented earlier. Today, I will give you an overview of some key concepts regarding what is universal design. So, what do we mean by accessibility? And many types of barriers. We have visible barriers, but also invisible barriers. What is universal design? So the definition, which are the 7 principles and how we can apply them. And finally, why universal design could be strategic in your services and in your field. So when we talk about accessibility, usually we immediately associate this word with disability. For a long time, disability was understood as a condition, individual condition, linked to the person. So a problem of the person to be addressed with specific or special solutions. But today, with this ECF, this is an important classification of disability. We had a shift, so disability is no longer seen only as an individual characteristic, but as the result of the interaction between a person and the environment. So from this perspective, accessibility is not just adapting something for someone, but is the space we have to make available for everyone. This cartoon illustrates the difference between the 2 ways of understanding disability. In the first sentence, I can't work here because I can't go upstairs. The problem seems to lie with the person. So it suggests that the limitation belongs to the individual. In the second sentence, the building doesn't have a lift or a ramp, so the perspective changes. Now the problem is no longer the person, but the building, which is not designed to be accessible. And this shift is fundamental because it also shifts responsibility. So all of us has the responsibility to become more accessible for everyone. The symbols we use to represent accessibility also tells us about how our understanding of disability has evolved in the time. So the first international symbol is the standardized symbol of ISO, is the one we all know. We see the person in a wheelchair seen from the side. It played a fundamental role in 1968 when it began to be used, because for the first time it made accessibility visible in public space. At the same time, in the 2013, there has been diverse sorry, I forgot the word. The Accessible Icon Project, it's a redesign of the icon, and this figure is a little bit different from the very first because it's like more dynamic. And so person in wheelchair could be autonomous, could move alone. Shortly after, in 2015, the United Nations introduced a new accessibility symbol, even more inclusive. You see not the people sit in the wheelchair, but a stylized human figure with open arms enclosed in a sinker. And the meaning is clear. Accessibility is not about a specific category, so people in wheelchair, but all people. Let's see some numbers. When we talk about disability, we imagine a small group of people, but in reality, data tells us a very different story. According to Eurostat, in 2024, there were about 19 million people with disabilities in Europe. In Croatia, the percentage is 26.4%. This includes a wide range of situations, from more severe conditions to those with a less visible but still significant impact on daily life, such as chronic illness, heart conditions, cancers, dementia, behavioral disorders. Disability is not a small category, but a condition that can affect a large part of the population, either permanently or temporarily. And what is more important is that many disabilities are invisible. So they are not immediately noticeable, but they exist. Another important aspect is that visibility can be permanent, temporary, or situational. Permanent disabilities are the ones we usually think about, so a person using a wheelchair or a blind person. Then there are also temporary disabilities, so a broken leg or a surgery, a condition that lasts for a limited period but still affects autonomy. And finally, situational disabilities, which are perhaps the most interesting because they involve all of us. Let's see barriers before moving into universal design. A barrier is any factor that prevents, hinders, or limits participation. And as we have seen, are not only physical. They can take different forms. They can be physical, related to space, so steps, narrow doors, or difficult paths. Or they can be perceptual or sensory, when, for example, information is not accessible to everyone. They can be cognitive, when something is difficult to understand. They can be communicative, so related to language or lack of clarity. And they also can be digital, related to websites, apps, and so on. In the next slides, I will take some concrete examples of those barriers. A classic example is stairs, but also electric stair lifts, because very often they don't work when you need it. So even poorly designed sidewalks where trees, for example, narrow the width of the sidewalks. Perceptual barriers refer to the situation where there is a lack of contrast, for example, which can lead to mistakes. And there is also a tactile map there to help overcome these perceptual barriers. Then sensory barriers are any barriers that involve the five senses. Think of a noisy environment or an environment with poor light. Cognitive barriers, on the other hand, refer to difficulties in, for example, understanding how to navigate the space. Communication barriers include, for example, poorly written slides, PowerPoint slides, or consider the captions for artworks in museums. They are just as important as the artworks. So it's very important to give the information also in museums and in every situation. The digital barriers will be shown later, so I want to go into them now. And finally, multiple barriers. These are common, very common, because we often encounter a combination of barriers in public spaces, for example. This sign says it takes 5 minutes to get there from point A to point B, for example, but it depends. Maybe not if you're on a wheelchair and if you have to take an itinerary with architectural barriers. So let's go to the definition of universal design. It's very interesting, this reflection by Ronald Bass. He was an architect. He was a pioneer of universal design. He says that every time we design something and then need to add adaptation, exceptions, or alternative versions, we are admitting that the original design didn't work for everyone. And this is simple, but this is the point. And too often, accessibility is seen as something to add later, a ramp, a simplified version, an alternative path. But universal design invites us, me as an architect, you as a provider of tourist services, to shift perspective, not to design for a standard users and then adapt, but to design from the beginning with human diversity in mind. So, we have 7 principles that can guide us to make spaces and services more universally designed. They should be seen as a sort of guide or checklist for designing for everyone. But let's remember that accessibility is not a simple checklist. Being accessible means ensuring that everyone has the opportunity to feel welcome, to understand, and to participate. The first principle is equitable use, which means that the experience should be the same for everyone, without separate solutions. Examples are a main entrance accessible to all guests without a secondary back entrance, or common areas usable by everyone, like breakfast room, reception, lounge. This is an example of kitchen designed for everyone, with attention paid to counter height and the reachability of all utensils. Flexibility in use is the second principle, offering different ways to experience the stay. Examples are check-in options, in-person, online, or self-check-in. Also, for the breakfast, people can have the opportunity to choose buffet or served options. Also, for the information, they have to be available on the reception or printed material or digital access. Every guest has different needs, so even on the same day. These scissors are designed to be used by both right-handed and left-handed people. This is an example of flexibility in use. The third is simple and intuitive use. So the service or the place or the object could be easy to understand even for first-time guests. Examples are clear signage, so rooms, elevator, breakfast areas, exits, also the website, and also simple in-room instructions, how to switch on the Wi-Fi, air conditioning, how to go for the checkout. And also clear internal layout. This is a kind of architectural problem. So guests should never feel lost. The fourth is perceptible. No, this is an example of very simple and intuitive use design, because IKEA furniture assembly instructions are very intuitive tool for everyone. The fourth principle is perceptible information. So information could be accessible through different formats because no one has the possibility to read. So written information plus icons, but also videos or instructions with subtitles if you have a website, with clear photos of rooms and spaces, and also simple, transparent descriptions. Very important, honest accessibility information. If you have some architectural barriers, please say this, because it's very important that every person knows how to is the situation. So it's not enough to provide information. Tactile maps for blind people are an example of a communication tool that can be perceived. Another principle is tolerance for error, so reducing mistakes and frustrations. Examples are booking systems easily to modify or cancel. Also check-in with clear instructions to avoid confusion. And also no ambiguous path with the signage, so stairs versus elevator clearly indicated. And no surprises. So a good service prevents problems, not just solves them. In this example, it's important to be able to prevent any unintended actions by going back. The sixth principle is low physical effort, so comfortable, not physically demanding. Examples are accessible and reliable elevators, or seating in reception and common areas. Short, clear paths between entrance, reception, and rooms, if possible, of course. And also assistant with luggage, or easy alternatives. Travel is already tiring for people, so hospitality, welcomeability should make it easier. This is an example of low physical effort idea. So let's think of all objects that have been redesigned to be more user-friendly, such as this. In this case, it's easier for users to interact with the object. The last principle is size and space for approaching use, so spaces that work for different bodies and situations. Examples are rooms with enough space for movement, or accessible bathrooms, or reception desks at different heights. Also breakfast areas, not too crowded or narrow, and also accessible parking or easy drop-off areas. There is no standard guests. Why, finally, UD is strategic? Because we cater to a broad group of people whose characteristics and needs are far more diverse than those of we call standard users. As you can see in this picture, also from an economical point of view, if we only see the standards, there are not a lot of very standard people, okay? The major number of people are very diverse. Universal design is a continuous process. We can't improve the situation right away, but we can work toward that goal. And finally, some tips. Put yourself in the shoes of the people you are designing for. Define needs, resources, and objectives at the outset. Technology is a valuable but double-edged resource, so consider both innovation and obsolescence. Very important, the consultation with organizations and people with disabilities, because they know what they need. And finally, universal design ensures accessibility for the widest possible audience, the aim is to include everyone. I finished my presentation. If you have any question now or later, I'm here. Thank you.